Welcome to
to 15.7 trillion naira at the end of December 2018.
Senior Democrats have responded by accusing him of committing a gross offense.
The All Progressives Congress has vowed to punish the Ogun State Governor, Ibikule Amosu.
Fireworks as Obaseki Izeyamu meet face-to-face at Edo debate. Maliku, opposition rejects transition deal as power grab. And on coronavirus, rule of 6 comes into effect. And top 10 exporters earned $74.78 million in 1 month. LeBron leads Lakers to NBA West Finals. You're welcome to Celebration Television News Desk. I am Nicholas Akosile-Walter. Please stay with us as we bring you the details of the news at this moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. You're welcome back, and thanks for staying with us once more. Now the news in details. Nigerian federal government pegs presidency's expenditure in 2021 budget at 10 billion naira. The federal government has put the expenditure ceiling of the president's expenditure in the 2021 budget at 10 billion naira. This is against the 15.3 billion naira allocated for the same purpose in the revised 2020 budget. The Deputy Director of Information, State House Atta Essa, disclosed this in a statement titled "Agencies in the Presidency Holds 2021 Budget Consultations." Essa, in a statement, said the Permanent Secretary, State House, Mr. Tijani Umar, led the 2021 budget bilateral meeting between government agencies under the presidency and officials of the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. He quoted Umar saying that the preparations of the 2021 budget estimates takes into the consideration the policies and strategies contained in the 2021 through 2023 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, which is the federal government's pre-budget statement. He said Umar also explained that in line with the directive issued by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the annual budget was being prepared using the zero-based budget approach and in compliance with the government's policy trust as articulated in the MTF/FSP and Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan. Moving forward, fireworks as Obaseki Izeyamu meets face-to-face at Edo debate. For the first time since the beginning of the politicking and electioneering process for the 2020 Edo State governorship election, the two major contenders in the poll met physically to share their vision with the people of the state. The All Progressives Congress candidate Osagie Izeyamu and the state governor Godwin Obaseki, who is seeking re-election on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, had earlier attended a visual debate organized by the BBC Pidgin, but the two juggernauts stood face to face before a live audience on Sunday evening during the channel's television Edo State governorship debate. The debate, organized by the television station and its partners, comes after a week to the September 19, 2020 governorship election. At the debate, the moderator, Sheung Akimbaloye, asked the candidates their plans to revive the state economy, especially along the lines of job creation and industrialization. According to the moderator, the Human Development Index of the state in 2008 was 0.622%, and Edo State standards are 12th out of 36 states. Also in 2019, Edo State has a poverty head count level of 6th out of the 36 states of the Federation. Responding, Obaseki said in terms of human capacity and employment, that is one area where they believe that they have accomplished quite a lot. On the onset, he promised he will rise a minimum of 200,000 jobs within a minimum of 4-year period. And just before COVID-19 pandemic hit, they actually created directed and indirect job as well for Edo people, as much as 157,000. But the APC candidate disagreed with the statistics stated by the governor, saying he falsified the data. Izeyamu said it is sad when the government that should be accurate with figures begins to falsify figures. If it is true that they have been able to have the number of jobs that the Edo State governor claims, their IGR, that's their internally generated revenue, will not be where it is. Obaseki, in his reaction, noted that the data he gave was verified and was based on a survey conducted by the National Bureau of Statistics, saying you can't just come to a debate and mouth figures, forgetting that everything you say can be goggled. But Izeyamu maintained he thinks that in the past 4 years, the economy of Edo has been mismanaged, has been plundered, and all the huge amounts that we received at the inception of this administration has practically left our state without any serious project to show for it. Obaseki had dumped the APC for the PDP following his disqualification from participating in the APC primary that produced Izeyamu as the flag bearer of the party for the poor. The APC had alleged that Obaseki's disqualification bordered on discrepancies in his certificates. Expectations rise daily as the D-Day approaches as to who will win the September 19 poll in Edo. Worried about the recent spate of violence in the state, the Oba of Benin, Owari II, held a peace meeting with the two candidates recently. The Independent National Electoral Commission has also said that candidates will sign a peace accord on Tuesday.
Well, it is sad when government that should be accurate with figures begin to falsify figures. If it is true that we have been able to have the number of jobs that the Edo State governor claims, our IGR will not be where it is. There will be a significant leap. But I'll tell you, and they know it, it has stagnated. What they call jobs are people who are trained. And I'm sure he's not going to mistake the appointments he's doing now as jobs, because I know that in the past 1 month, he has appointed over 2,000 people as SSAs on social media and the rest of them. Those are not jobs. So when you say you've created jobs, in what area? We know, for example, that there is a glaring vacancy in the teaching profession. Every school we went, they practically had no teachers. Nobody was employed. So for a governor who talks about creating jobs, a sector as vital as education, you have left it the way it is. Most of those schools don't have teachers. The same thing with the hospitals. In the hospitals, there are no doctors. I went to Uromi and they lamented to me that they have only one doctor. In the agricultural sector, it's in shambles. Security is in shambles. So when you are talking about jobs, where are these jobs? Who did you give them to? So I think it is sad when government that should be accurate with figures begin to feed our agencies with bogus statistics that tend to give an impression that we are doing well when we are not doing well. Yes.
In terms of human capacity and employment, that is one area where we believe we have accomplished quite a lot. On the onset, I promised that I will generate a minimum of 200,000 jobs within a 4-year period. And just before COVID-19 pandemic hit, we had created direct and indirect jobs for Edo people as much as 157,000. And where did the jobs come from? They came from the way government decided to address the economy. That government's role is being an enabler, creating an enabling environment for people to come and invest so that the economy can thrive. We had to make sure that we created a sense of order where people will not be harassed when they come in. We created a sense of purpose for the civil service so that civil servants now realize that they are supposed to provide service and complement the efforts of the private sector, that government is not in the business of competing with private businesses. Rather, government is in the business of encouraging people to come in. We also decided to work with the federal authorities in areas of opening up the economy. For instance, when I came into office, only one flight came into Benin because the airport did not have the capacity to. Because we realized the importance of air traffic, working with the aviation authorities, we co-invested in the Benin airport with navigational aids and night landing facility. Today, you have not less than 8 flights that come into Edo State through Benin Airport. These and other cooperations we've had with various agencies have helped us open the economy and made it possible for people to invest and create jobs.
On other stories, Nigerian federal government fumes as health workers begin strike. Following his deadlocked meeting with the federal government, the joint health sector unions have resolved to proceed with his strike. This was the decision reached after his expanded National Executive Council meeting. This was just as the federal government directed the various unions in the health sector operating under by Johesu to ignore the strike directive. Johesu, in a 3-paragraph letter dated September 12, titled Re-Noticed of 15-Day Ultimatum Outcome of Jehoshua Expanded National Executive Council meeting, said it will proceed on strike as nothing was achieved in the conciliatory meeting. The memo went to the Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, who actually signed by Jehosu President Bayo Belemoye Josiah, and Secretary General Dr. Silas Adamu, President of Senior Staff Association of Universities Teaching Hospitals Research Institute, Dr. Benjamin Akintola, General Secretary, Nigerian Union of Allied Health Professionals, Martin Egbanubi, among others. The Ministry of Labor and Employment in a statement said it had apprehended the dispute with the conciliation initiated last Thursday, which is still ongoing. A statement on Sunday by the Deputy Director of Press and Public Relations in the Ministry, Mr. Charles Akman, said going ahead with the action would be illegal. And coming quickly from around Africa, on Mali coup, opposition rejects transition deals as power grab. The opposition coalition, which led mass protests in Mali ahead of last month's coup, has rejected a transition charter. The country's military leadership agreed to establish an 18-month interim government until an election could take place. It followed 3 days of talks with opposition and civil society groups. It also said the document did not take into account what it said was a majority vote for a civilian interim leader and did not reflect the views and decisions of the Malian people. West Africa's regional bloc, ECOWAS, had also called for the interim president to be a civilian, but the military leadership says a civilian or a soldier can fill the role. The interim charter announced by the military leaders also states that an interim legislative body is to be established comprising M5 RFP members. Mali is struggling with intense Islamist and ethnic violence, as well as a flattering economy. The 75-year-old former leader flew to the United Arab Emirates on the 5th of September for medical treatment after suffering a minor stroke, military officials have said. His former chief of staff said he could be away for up to 15 days. After the coup, African leaders said they actually wanted a rapid return to civilian rule. Mali's new military rulers had previously said they wanted the interim period to last for 2 years. President Keita was overthrown on the 18th of August following mass protests against his rule over corruption, the management of the economy, and a dispute over legislative elections. The coup sparked international condemnation, but it was welcomed by many Malians. Mr. Keita was detained by the military but later freed. This was the fourth coup in a West African state since it gained independence from France in 1960. A previous coup in 2012 led a militant Islamist exploiting the instability of seized territory in northern Mali. French troops helped regain territory, but attacks continue. The coup leaders earlier promised to respect international agreements on fighting jihadists. Thousands of French, African, and UN troops are based in the country to tackle the militants. And still coming from around Africa quickly, Uganda and Tanzania signed $3.5 billion oil pipeline deal. Tanzania and Uganda have signed an agreement allowing for the construction of a 1,445 kilometer, which is equivalent to 898 miles crude oil pipeline. The $3.5 billion project will connect Uganda's oil field to Tanzania's port of Tanga. The signing ceremony was attended by the presidents of both countries. Oil reserves were found in Uganda in 2006, but production has been delayed partly by a lack of infrastructure, including an export pipeline. A start date for construction has not yet been announced for what is set to become East Africa's first major oil pipeline. But there are warnings the project could come at a huge cost to some Ugandan communities. More than 12,000 families risk losing their land and livelihoods, according to a joint report by the International Federation for Human Rights and Oxfam. Conservationists have also warned that ecosystems are at risk from the drilling in Uganda's nature reserve. And quickly, French oil grants Total is leading the plans along with the China's CNOC and the governments of Uganda and Tanzania. Sunday ceremony comes days after Total, the majority shareholders in Uganda's oil fields, said he had reached an agreement on the pipeline with Uganda's government. About 80% of the pipeline will run through Tanzania, and the project is expected to create more than 18,000 jobs for Tanzanians, Reuters news agency, as a correspondent actually quotes government spokesman Hassan Abbasi as saying. We'll go on a very short break. We'll come back. We'll bring you details of news coming from the United Kingdom as coronavirus. They're actually adopting a rule of 6 comes into effect. Stay with us.
every gathering there is a waiting. To every act of remembrance there is a sure visitation. For the Lord is mighty to save. His arms are stretched forth to deliver.
Papa, sir, her legs and hands were bound. Papa, she was mad. Been mad for 2 years.
Mad for 2 years. Are you just looking?
Hallelujah.
September to Remember 2020. Pray until something happens.
Say, my father, my father. My father. As I begin to pray.
Apostle Johnson and Dr. Lizzie Suleiman, happening on the 23rd through 27th September 2020 at the International Worship Center, Omega Fire Ministries headquarters, kilometer 132 Benin Okene Abuja Expressway, Auchi, Edo State, Nigeria. The time is 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. daily. For inquiries, please call. September to Remember. It is time to travail.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. Now updates from the United Kingdom on coronavirus. Rule of 6 comes into effect. Restrictions banning social gatherings of more than 6 people have come into effect following rise in coronavirus cases. The rule of 6 applies in both indoors and outdoors in England and Scotland, and indoors only in Wales. Restrictions in England affects everyone but do not include children under 11 in Wales or under 12 in Scotland. Some Tory Member of Parliament have urged Nom 10 to also exempt young children in England. The new rules are introduced as the UK's R number escalates to between 1 and 1.2 for the first time since March, indicating infections are increasing. A further 3,330 positive cases were recorded in the UK on Sunday, the third consecutive day in which cases have been over 3,005 more deaths reported. Home Secretary Priti Patel urged the public not to break the rules as police forces vow to enforce them. Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove defended the new measures in England as absolutely right, saying some people had unwittingly contributed to the spread of the virus because of the way they had interacted. Under the new rules, larger gatherings are still allowed at gyms, schools, places of worship, weddings and funerals. Education and work settings are not affected. The rule of 6 in England replaces the existing ban on gatherings of more than 30 people and the current guidance on allowing 2 households to meet indoors. England, Scotland and Wales each have new restrictions. Groups larger than 6 can be broken up by police, with members of the group facing fines of £100 for a first offence, doubling on each further offence up to £3,200. Northern Ireland announced a 6-person 2 households limit on indoor gatherings on 24th of August, a reduction and a production on previous restrictions of 10 people from 4 households. More updates from Belarus. Belarus protests. Opposition keeps up pressure on Lukashenko. Tens of thousands of people have been marching in the capital Minsk and other cities in the latest of several weeks of mass protests against President Alexander Lukashenko. Large numbers of police have been deployed, blocking key areas. Police said they arrested about 400 people ahead of the protest, during the protest as well, dubbed the March of Heroes. The protests have been triggered by a widely disputed election a month ago and subsequent brutal police crackdown. Demonstrators want Mr. Lukashenko to resign after alleging widespread ballot rigging. But the Belarusian leader in power for 26 years has denied the allegations and accuses Western nations of interfering. The 66-year-old has promised to defend Belarus. Most opposition leaders are now under arrest or in exile. It is the 5th successive Sunday of mass protests with about 100,000 rallying each week. Eyewitnesses at the center of Minsk was flooded with people. They marched on the elite residential area of Drozhdy, where the country's top officials, including President Lukashenko, live, but were blocked by police. Rallies are also being held in Brest, Gomel, Mogilevy, and other cities. However, the Interior Ministry said that the protest involved no more than 3,000 people across the country. The ministry said arrests were made in various districts of the capital and that those detained were carrying flags and placards of an insulting nature. Quickly on business news, we have 10 top exporters and $74.78 million in 1 month. Top 10 exporters earned $74.78 million from export proceeds in May, despite lockdown introduced by the federal government to contain the COVID-19 pandemic spread, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria stated this in its monthly economic reports for the month of May. It said, despite the lockdown measures, export proceeds of the top 10 exporters increased by 29.8% to $74.78 million from $57.62 billion. Analysis shows that Olam Nigeria Limited topped the list with a value of $21.15 million, or 28.3% of the total, from the export of cocoa beans, cashew nuts, and sesame seeds to Turkey and China. The second major non-oil exporter was British American Tobacco Nigeria Limited with a value of $18.13 million, which is equivalent to 24.2% from the exports of cigarettes to Liberia, Guinea, Ghana, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, and Niger. The third major non-oil exporter was Indorama Eleme Fertilizer and Chemicals Limited at $9.64 million, 12.9%, realized from the exports of urea fertilizer and agronomy services to Turkey and China. The fourth major non-oil exporter was Valency Agro Nigeria Limited with a value of $5.52 million, 7.4% from the export of cocoa beans to Malaysia. This was followed by Sterling Global and INT'L Limited with a value of $5 million, and is equivalent to 6.7% from the export of cocoa beans to Malaysia. Olatunde International Limited, Wakot Limited, ETC Agro Company, Nigeria Limited, Atlantic Shrimp House Limited, and BC Nigeria Cocoa and Chocolate Limited were at 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th positions with export earnings of $4.09 million, which is 5.5%, $3.48 million, which is 4.7%, and $3.09 million, which is 4.1%, $2.39 million, which is 3.2%, and $2.29 million, which is 3.1%, respectively. Their major export products were raw cocoa beans, cashew nuts, sesame seeds, sea frozen shrimps, send chocolates to Spain, India, Japan, Vietnam, and the Netherlands, respectively. And still on business news quickly, NNPC to support deployment of gas facilities. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has pledged to support ongoing initiatives by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources to provide alternate energy source to Nigerians. It said this would be through aggressive activation of compressed natural gas refuel stations for motorists across the country. The Group Managing Director NNPC, Mele Kyari, disclosed this in a statement issued in Abuja. Kyari said the NNPC had already keyed into the gas penetration agenda as championed by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timmy Silva, and he said that the corporation would continue to work with other stakeholders in the industry to provide viable alternatives to petrol, which would ultimately lead to reduction in demand for the product and eventual drop in price. The NNPC boss reiterated the commitment of the corporation towards openness and greater transparency in its operations. He stated that in the months ahead, the NNPC would actually make public its 2019 audited financial statements as a sequel to the 2018 AFS released in June this year. INQUIRY also shed more light on the status of the nation's refineries, noting that the plants were deliberately shut down to allow for a diagnosis of the issue. These issues, he said, had over time made it impossible for the facilities to operate up to their nameplate capacity. He explains that the shutdown also became inevitable due to difficulties in feeding them with crude oil via the pipelines that had been completely compromised by vandals. INQUIRY said the corporation was moving rapidly to execute complete rehabilitation of the refineries under an exercise that will guarantee restoration of the facilities to at least 90% capacity utilization. We'll go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you details from the sporting world. Stay with us.
To every gathering, there is a waiting. To every act of remembrance, there is a sure visitation. For the Lord is mighty to save. His arms are stretched forth to deliver.
Papa, sir, her legs and hands were bound. Papa, she was mad. Been mad for 2 years.
Mad for 2 years. Are you just looking? Hallelujah.
September to remember 2020. Pray until something happens.
Say, my father, my father. As I begin to pray,
Apostle Johnson and Dr. Lizzie Suleiman, happening on the 23rd through 27th September 2020 at the International Worship Center, Omega Fire Ministries headquarters, kilometer 132 Benin Okene Abuja Expressway, Auchi, Edo State, Nigeria. The time is 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. daily. For inquiries, please call. September to remember. It is time to travel.
You welcome sports news. LeBron leads Lakers to NBA West Finals. LeBron James had 29 points, 11 rebounds and 7 assists as the Los Angeles Lakers advanced to their first NBA Western Conference Final in a decade with a 119-96 blowout win over the Houston Rockets. Anthony Davis tallied 13 points and 11 rebounds. Kyle Kuzma had 17 and Markieff Morris finished with 16 for the Lakers, who eliminated the Rockets in 5 games in the quarantine bubble in Orlando, Florida. Los Angeles advanced to their first NBA Final Four since the Kobe Bryant-led Lakers beat Phoenix for the conference title and then defeated Boston for the 2010 NBA championship, the last time they won. This will be James' 11th career conference finals, but when asked by reporters how it feels, he changed the subject to talk about the group as a whole. They will face either the Los Angeles Clippers or the Denver Nuggets in the next playoff round. The Clippers led that series 3-2. The Lakers got off to their best start of the series, dominating the opening plays to take a 35-20 lead at the end of the first quarter. Their only lull of the game came in the start of the second quarter when Houston briefly woke from their slumber and cut the lead to 7, 38-31. But the Lakers outscored the Rockets 33-18 in the third to take full command. They drained 19 three-pointers and shot 52% from the floor. With a game in hand, the Lakers served free time and NBA champion James and Davis for much of the fourth quarter. Quickly, in another news coming from the sporting world, Osaka defeats Azarenka to win US Open. Naomi Osaka battled back from a set during against Victoria Azarenka to lift her second US Open title in 3 years with 1-6, 6-3, 6-3 victory. The Japanese added her second title in New York with a battling performance to her Australian Open crown for her third Grand Slam in 3 years. The Belarusian mother of her 3-year-old son, Leo, was making an improbable comeback at the age 31 against the 22-year-old Japanese sporting icon and highest earning female athletes in the world. Azarenka, playing in her first Grand Slam final in 7 years, came flying out of the traps to take a 2-0 before the fourth seed found some equilibrium to settle her nerves for an important hold to serve. And quickly, Azarenka maintained her momentum through the first 2 games of the second set, but Osaka broke back for 2-1, and that proved to be a crucial moment. For only the 4th time in the last 25 US Open women's finals, who were heading into a final set. Osaka was involved in the controversial final against Serena Williams 2 years ago, while Azarenka was involved in 3 setters falling to Williams in 2012 and 2013. Osaka had not lost in a final set as Flushing Meadows for 3 years, and after breaking for 3-1, she saved 3 breakpoint chances to dig out a massive hold. The pair shared breaks before Osaka stayed mentally strong to move 5-3 up, and she stayed cool to serve out the match. And that has brought us to the end of the news on Celebration Television News Desk. In case you're just joining us or you actually missed out on news items, here is the news headline recap. Fireworks as Obaseki Izeyamo meet face-to-face at a Edo debate. And Omaliku opposition rejects transition deals as power grab. On coronavirus, rule of 6 comes into effect. Top 10 exporters earned $74.78 million in 1 month. LeBron leads Lakers to NBA West Finals. Quickly, we'll have photo of the day. Did you just see that? Can you see that? We'll have now taking it from the left to the right, you see darkness. Then you see somebody who is actually lying as a bridge for another person to climb. We'll see a father and we'll see a future. What does that mean? When you need to rest on the shoulder of a great person before you can actually achieve whatever. The bridge you see that that guy climbing is actually the training, part of the training he actually got from the father to achieving a glorious future. That's it. As parents, how best have you tried actually training your children in the best way to go in achieving a better future? You can drop your comment on our social media platforms on Facebook, Celebration TV, Instagram, My Celebration TV, Twitter at My Celebration TV, YouTube, Celebration TV. Always remember that the continuous transformation of our society is a collective responsibility of all. No matter the office you hold today as a nation's president, a thought leader, an opinion molder, a character builder, a professional, or as a person pursuing passion, you have a duty to give your all to making the society a better place for us and the generations to come. Play your part today and do it with all diligence. Thank you once again for staying with us on our news desk. I remain Nicholas Akosile Walter. Remain blessed. To 15.7 trillion naira at the end of December 2018.
Senior Democrats have responded by accusing AIM of committing a gross offense.
The All Progressives Congress has vowed to punish the Ogun State Governor, Ibikule Amosu.